I'm Jack Nesbitt. Max and I are part of the team that is Canines for Wildlife. Been working with Canines for Wildlife for about 6 years now. Canines for Wildlife is a family business. We have 4 members of the team: Lynn Baker, Brad Nesbitt, my parents, and we have another team member, Lily Alvarez. Lily has come on as a detection dog trainer and handler. She has also brought her own dog into the team. Together we work on a lot of conservation projects, training and handling conservation scent detection dogs for ecological survey with both pest species and threatened species, for research and for management data gathering. We have a real focus with our business and our work to work towards management actions and to preserve our natural environment. Max makes up a kennel of dogs that we have at Canines for Wildlife. We have 5 other dogs that are working on a range of odours at the moment, including koala and the Endangered species, some other turtle species, and some of the pest and feral species, including cane toad, feral cat, to be able to inform control and management for those species and for biosecurity to also protect the threatened species that we're working on. Max is trained on a number of different odours, koala being his mainstay. He's also done work on 2 species of rare montane Endangered. He's also trained on rodent, the black rat, and European field mice to help with biosecurity on Lord Howe Island. He's also been trained on Bell's turtle to do nest detection work up on the New England tablelands. The Bell's turtle, like many of our freshwater turtles in Australia, is under quite extreme threat from predation, mainly from the European red fox. They raid nests. The ecologists are not able to find many of the young hatchlings, and so we're having an ageing population. So there's the impetus for us is to be able to find those nests and protect them at an early stage before the foxes can raid them. The Bell's turtle, it's a sister species to the Bellinger river snapping turtle as well, the Manning river turtle also, and the sawshell turtle further north. The 3 are all facing similar threats.
So we use the dogs to work out where the nesting beaches are, where the nests are, and then protect them against fox predation. We've mapped all of that out now, so now we're just fencing to protect the whole beaches. And then we go in with the dog at the end and do hatched nest surveys and help rescue any hatchlings that don't make it out of the nests. Ash was doing red-eared slider turtle in water bodies down in Sydney. It's South American and they're super invasive.
Max's training took about a year from when we began to when he was working in the field. Max took to his work really quickly. At his level of training now, we could train him on to most new odours in about 1 to 2 months. He's very experienced with the work that he's doing now. Max is 6 years old. He's been working on koala for about 5 years, most of his working life. It took about a year to train him as a scent detection dog. What we look for in our scent detection dogs, a lot of the attributes make them really poor pets. Very hyperactive, energetic, very high drive. For Max, his drive is really based around reward, and that reward for him is tennis ball. That is the most exciting and rewarding part of his day. That, combined with his just pure joy to search for odour, makes him really well suited for this work. He really doesn't have an interest in wildlife itself, which makes it really good because he can be passively searching through the environment, not disturbing or chasing wildlife, and that motivation for him comes from the odour and the joy for searching for it. Putting that together with the experience that he now has over 5 years searching for koalas is he does the job himself mostly. My job is to carry the water and the tennis ball. Working between us, my job as the handler is to interpret his behaviour, and when he is on odour, which in the right conditions can be up to hundreds of metres away, and helping him move in the correct direction to hone in on that scent and for the koala work to be able to show us where the scats are, and he points that out by laying down and indicating them to me with his nose. And when I can find the scat and see it visually, then I will bridge him using a word that lets him know that the job's done, that he's about to receive his reward, which is yes. When he hears that, then he gets to play with the tennis ball. We work all the way across Australia. Some of the recent work is as far as Lord Howe Island, done some work around Gladstone and down to around Sydney and the south coast of New South Wales as well, where the conservation work is basically. Some of the clients and the groups that we work with include groups from the private and government sectors, also some of the research institutions, so working with some of the universities, a lot of local environmental groups and agencies as well.
Thanks for coming. Welcome to country. We'd like to pay our respect for our elders and ancestors, past and present and upcoming. And the main thing is just respecting Gumbanga land. Native asparagus. The best bit's actually the end of the board.
Thank you.
The project that we've been working on here with the Coffs Harbour Local Aboriginal Land Council and the Durundawaja Rangers is to look at koala habitat on some of the lands that they have been managing. So doing some cultural burning to make sure that the habitat is staying usable for koalas and that the burning is not impacting them in a negative way.
Circles. Is he like down at home? Yep.
It's been a real privilege to work with the rangers on some of the properties that they manage, to be welcomed onto that property and to work with them closely to look at how the koalas are using that landscape and to confirm that they haven't been impacted by activities that are going on in those areas and that the habitat is improving and helping them move across their landscape in ways that they would have done for many years past.
Lead the way, were you thinking?
Yeah,
this is where we burnt down to last year.
Okay.
About here.
Yep.
About 150 metres down it went. Right up top of this knob and down there at the end of it.
Nice.
Yeah. Some patches that went about 150 metres down here. And then
this project through the Aboriginal Land Council, which is a really fantastic way to be able to work with our local communities and to bring some of those conservation actions and that research into our local environment, especially in the areas that we live. We have a really deep connection here. And
that was strapped. The quick name for it was one of the strongest fibres in the bush around here. And it's a real tasty bush tucker on there. Bottom there. Has a broccoli store. Really nutritious tasting. Yeah, you can make pretty much trap wire and all kinds of stuff with this stuff. Must have been useful calling it settler's trap, I think.
It's a real privilege to be able to work on privately managed and owned land as well, to be able to see some areas of the landscape that not a lot of people do, and to be able to provide some information for the managers of that land and to give them knowledge about what's going on with the natural environment in the areas that they're managing, and to be able to show people some of the ways that their environment is being utilised by some of the native wildlife that we don't always get to see with our eyes, but Max can see with his nose. The other real benefit of working with Max is that real connection that he is able to bridge between people and the environment, the information that he can show us. Some of the work that we've done with him and working on this project also, to be able to pick up multiple scats at the base of a tree if they're of suitable age for genetic work, so that we can analyse those and get some more information about the koala's health and their interconnectedness and the overall population health.
Yeah, when they're really fresh, it's not far off fresh. When they're really fresh, they're either really green or they're very shiny, which is where you get the DNA material from genetics, which is the epithelial cells on the outside that get excreted with the scat. And you can see this has got a bit of a shine on it.
Different individual, which is quite interesting, I think. They're really big, different ridging, very fat compared to some of the smaller ones up the back.
Yeah, I think it's medium. It's getting closer to fresh. Yeah, you can see the sort of dark, shiny.
Still nice and shiny. You can see on that one there, you can actually see some of the ridges that you get running down longitudinally.
That's from their gut, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, and it is one of the ways that you can distinguish them from possum scats, and also from different individual koalas too, the shape.
Like a print. Gut print.
Gut print. That's a nice way of putting it. Max missed these. These are brush-tail possum. So they're darker in colour and the shape is a lot more irregular. They're blunter on the ends and they've got this dimpling and they get squished together. That's generally quite uncharacteristic. You get these dimples, and if you break one open, they're a lot more fibrous. Often you can see fruit seeds or bits of insect bodies and such, which are all things that koalas don't eat.
Very typical koala scat, very uniform, chewed, no insect, no hair fibres, just nice uniform leaf fibre.
So we're going to work our way back, just following the contour under the berm.
Boggy, so we might stop there and then we can walk up, kind of go around this sort of crescent in here. Yeah, there was lots of activity down here.
The collar allows us to track him in real time in case he ever gets separated with the device, and it also gives us a nice GPS track so we can find out how far he's searched in the day and draw some nice maps to show our coverage of the search area. A good rule of thumb is at least double is what he covers, and we were mostly on track, so probably even more than double for what he did.
That's why I have to spare his legs.
So the dog has a GPS collar, and so that actually tracks the dog's search area, so we can actually see where he's actually covered and how much terrain he's covered in the survey. When we find scats, we take a GPS record, and we also do it on our Avenza maps because it's easier to map on the phone with that, and then all of that data along with the weather conditions, the tree that the scats are found in association with, the age of the scat are all recorded, and if the scat's fresh enough, then it'll be collected and stored for genetic analysis.
With Max's help, we can find scats that we never would have found on our own, deep into the litter, buried under many centimetres, sometimes in bandicoot holes where they've dug up and the scats have fallen into the hole, or we think possibly that the bandicoots may even be breaking open the scats and eating bugs that are inside the scats. But also the unbiased nature of the dog, looking for the odour and the point sources of that odour. He's not carrying the bias that I think that looks like a really nice tree, so I'll look for scats under there. He's picking it up at a distance and honing in, so he's also finding scats under trees that we never normally would have looked under, be they rainforest species or heath species that may be utilised by the koalas in different ways or in transit across their territories. The other aspect that's really interesting with the unbiased nature and looking at scats from koalas is the trees that they utilise on a regular basis. And there are some trees that are just clearly really keystone and really important to koalas within their habitat, and that they return to year after year. And you can almost guarantee that if you search under some individual trees that there will be scats. With some research that's happening on the south coast now, some trees, even though they are the right species in the right area, are just simply unpalatable because of some of the chemicals that they have, and more of that bias that we have as humans, that just because it's a koala habitat tree doesn't mean that it will be utilised or can be utilised by those koalas.
Cautious about identifying koalas by scratch marks. Brush-tail possum, the koala and even the goanna can all look really quite similar. You got an old one? The young ones. I'm not that fresh.
That's probably what you'd call fresh. We're getting very close. Yeah, so you can see that one. It's really a bit green and that's what we call fresh.
Very shiny and green, isn't it?
Yeah, shiny, and this one's actually still wet. So
So that's the last couple of days.
yeah, definitely.
Here's a tree that's got old degraded scats. It's got scats from a few weeks ago. It's got scats from the last few days. So there's an individual here who's recurringly returning to this tree. It's getting pretty fresh, isn't it?
Yeah, we picked up some stuff I would call fresh just up on the ridge here, so this may even be the same animal that's been down here previously.
Max helps us discover and confirm some of the new species and the species that are not commonly known to be used by koalas. In this area, forest oak, or the casuarinas, is a really common one, and there's a high suspicion and in some locations it has been confirmed that they're actually eating casuarina as well, be that for sustenance or in a medicinal fashion. Some properties, a lot of utilisation of rainforest trees, and more so than you would expect if they were just travelling through that landscape. So whether they're eating them or using the foliage or the tree to sit in to be comfortable and possibly to escape some of the heat in summer as well.
Grey gums just up there. This is a tallowood that looks about the same in terms of its attributes, diameter at breast height, close proximity, but for whatever reason doesn't have koala usage. You know, the dog hasn't picked up any scats, can't see any fresh scratch marks on the tree, so you know, it might be different soil, different moisture content, a range of different attributes, but for whatever reason the koala's not using this tree, and I suspect as we get a bit further down the ridge it's skipped this one and gone to a more favoured tree. So.
Relatively fresh.
So most likely a female.
Best guess.
Best you'd probably, if it was a male, someone probably would have heard more calling. But also just working on the premise of, like if you did genetics, you could know for sure. But the fact that there's trees that are being regularly utilised in the area, it's either a resident female or a resident male. But given that there hasn't been a lot of calling recorded, that sort of leans me to thinking possibly female.
So freezing them preserves that DNA then.
But you've got to make sure there's no other DNA on them. And
oh, it's why you're wearing gloves, not just to hold lantana.
Yeah, and also you don't want the roller. You want to keep them as intact as possible so you don't scrape the DNA off the outside of the scats, and treat them gently and we'll process them and make them in the freezer and leave at home.
So that's why Max just lies down and lets you do the digging. He doesn't stick his nose right on them.
Yeah.
Passive indication. Yeah?
But the other reason why we collect scat material as well as for training the dogs, because each individual koala has its own distinct odour, and what the dogs are trying to do is develop a koala profile that covers all koalas, not just individual koalas. So the more different koalas from different habitats, different locations, builds up a bigger painting of what we're after, and it helps them, because you can really notice if you go from one, like the coast to the tablelands, there's a bit of adjustment.
Because the diet's different.
Because the diet's different. If you go down south, there's an adjustment because the diet's different. So the dogs develop a library of sort of perfumes, if you like, that they can tap into and go, oh yeah, that's slightly different, but I recognise it as being the same thing. And then you've got one here that's starting to dry out a bit, and you've got a variety of usage time period. if you like, of the animals moving in and around here. So you've got animals that have been here a little while ago and then animals that have been here very recently, which gives you a sort of feeling of whether they're just moving through or whether they're actually living here.
Good to see a bit of koala activity within the burn area that we performed last year. So it's about it's exactly 12 months after the burn now, and we found some fresh koala scats.
Giving him the once over, he'll get a massage when we get home. Yeah, basically most of the, if not all of the available koala habitats that is being used, which is awesome.
Yeah. Oh, lots of activity.
Wow.
And really nice habitat.
Beautiful. Yeah. And in really good nick.
Like good trees, healthy trees.
Yeah, and good
Healthy
clean
trees,
understory.
really nice selection.
Yep,
That's good.
yep, and really diverse forest, so food trees plus lots of other stuff, which is really makes for a happy forest and makes for happy koalas.
Mm. There's not that much lantana in so many areas, and
Yeah, makes a big
it's
difference.
really good. Yeah,
Makes a big difference.
hopefully it stays like that.
Yeah, because like if they're moving from tree to tree, they need to get down and on the ground, and if it's really dense pines or lantana, then it's harder for them to move through.
That's where we've been today.
Wow, that was a big walk.
Yeah,
Max is pretty tired.
Max is done.
The dogs.
Well done.
We'll give you a copy of all of the GPS locations of all of the scats that we found, and there'll be a map and show you where everything is. So you've got a copy of the report.
We might get to see some koalas one day, maybe, Bob.